Boogie and I are going to go over everything he learned since he came to train with me. It's going to be a little bit longer of a video since we're going over all of the behaviors. He is working on his e-collar as well as with my slip leash. Most of what I'm doing is with the e-collar, so the slip leash is not really super important right now. Good. He will be coming home with his place bed, which we'll be using his place bed in this video. He'll come home with a new slip leash. This is my crusty training leash. And then he'll also be coming home with his e-collar and all that. Good. Alright, so this is his place bed right here. Typically if I'm training and I'm not working on place, I will pick it up because as you see here, he enjoys being on place. We've made it a really pleasant experience for him. So if I'm trying to work on something else, it can be a little bit frustrating when the dog just wants to hang out on the place bed. So I'll typically just pick it up and move it out of the way when I'm trying to work on stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and get him off the bed, and I'm going to show you how we ask for it, how we start the stay, and how all that goes. Free. Alright, so when I want him to go onto the bed, I'm going to kind of walk towards it, and I'm going to tell him the command. Place. He'll get up on his own. Then I'll go to the heel position. So the heel position is when he's on my left side, about at my leg here. I'll tell him, good. And then I'll put a couple pieces of food right at the front of the bed. And I'm just using his kibble to train. I want him to stay, pretty good pet weight and everything. So the amount of training we do, if I gave him treats, he's going to be pretty fluffy. And I definitely want to see him a little bit leaner than he is right now, so I would definitely recommend to continue training with the kibble and kind of limit his treat intake. Okay. So when I want him to stay on the bed, I'm going to tell him place. I'm going to step with my right leg. I'm going to step directly in front of the bed, and then from here I can kind of move around and do whatever. Now if he was to decide that he's going to get off of the bed, I'm going to mark it NO, give him a light either leash pop or a e-collar correction, just a tap, and then direct him back onto the place bed. His place is super solid at this point, so you really shouldn't see a whole lot of him breaking. If he is breaking consistently at a specific distraction, good. I would say he probably needs some work on it. So sometimes dogs will, if a bicycle goes by or something, we have to retrain for that experience just a little bit because it's a pretty weird experience. So if you're placed outside and stuff, just kind of keep in mind, good, your environment and the fact that you want to keep the dog successful most of the time. Because again, we want him to enjoy these behaviors. And he really enjoys place, so I'm really happy about that. But I don't want it to be a place where he's nervous about breaking and it becomes a negative emotion or anything like that. Place. So with my stays, I'm looking at three things. I'm looking at distance, how far can I get from the dog, duration, how long can the dog stay there, and distraction, so what can go on around the dog. And our distractions are pretty okay right now because we're outside, so we've got a couple good distractions happening around us. Sometimes I'll kind of move weird, or I'll throw some weird objects around as a distraction, just to kind of proof some of the stuff that happens in life, those weird scenarios that we can't really control too much. Good. All of our stays are going to look exactly the same. The only thing that changes is the dog's position. So place is my most stable stay, meaning that the dog is going to hold this the longest, the easiest. I don't ask him for any specific behaviors on place. If he lays down, I'm happy, but I'm not really asking him for it. Good. The only rule with place is that you stay on this bed, and that's why I use the elevated cot, because the dog can very clearly tell the difference between here and the floor versus if we use a flat mat or something that's already on the ground. But all of my stays are going to be the same. I'll tell them the command, place, step with my right leg in front of the bed, or whatever the dog's doing, we're stepping in front of the dog. And then from there I can kind of move about. And then when I'm ready for him to get off, I'll tell him, free, and step with my left foot. Oftentimes with place specifically, we made this such a good spot to be that the dog does not want to break the position. and that's totally fine. It's a great problem to have. It means he enjoys the behavior. And free literally just means do whatever you want. So if he wants to do this, he's technically obeying the command. Alright, so we're going to do a little bit on heel. The proper way to hold the leash, because he's going to heel on my left side, is I have the handle portion tucked under my thumb and then kind of over my thumb, and I'm holding it like this. This gives me a better grip in case I need to actually have like good handling on the dog. So my left hand's really not doing a whole lot with the leash. If I need to make any like corrections to his heel, I'm going to actually use my e-collar. And I'm going to actually hold that button down on a lower level. So we're going to use what's called his working level. I'm going to hold the button down until he's back in that position. As soon as he gets back in the position, the pressure from the collar goes away. And then we'll kind of keep moving on with the heel. And I'm going to be doing all of my rewarding with my left hand. So it'll still be good and feed, but I'm doing it with my left hand as the dog's in the heel position. Heel. When he's kind of starting to lag behind me and try to sniff and stuff. There he just kind of coughed up a treat, so I'm not going to correct that. That's just him eating a little too fast. Good. But I'll kind of give him a little tap with the e-collar. His working level on this specific model, this is the Fob Educator, that is a level 8, so that's actually really low. This e-collar is weaker than a lot of the e-collar tech e-collars are. So it's not very high at all. This is his working level. It's not a correction level at all. It's just kind of like annoying him a little bit, like a little tap on the shoulder to say, hey, still here, still healing, like let's get back into it. So it's not really a corrective measure there. Sometimes I will do a like kind of a jackpot reward. I use the word YES. That's going to mean FREE as well as good with that reward kit. So I'm going to go ahead and do that when he looks really nice, and I'm going to actually back up while I do it. Yes! So the reason I make sure to reward him going backwards and not forwards is if the dog is getting used to moving forwards in that heel, they're going to start forging, meaning that they're going to be walking ahead of us. And obviously, the whole point of heel is that they're not walking ahead of us and pulling. So we'll kind of walk backwards a little bit and make it a little bit of a prey item almost, where we're moving away, so the dog has the urge to chase it. So next we're going to talk about sit. With sit, occasionally the dog can confuse it with down. If the dog does down, we're going to reposition them. We're just going to say free, put them back in the sit. So he sits pretty automatically now when I stop walking. That's called an auto sit. But I'm going to try to set it up so that he won't. That way I can kind of show you how we cue the sit and how we use the e-collar. And we're still on his working level of level 8. And I'm just using the black button. So the black button is just my static stim. The red button will be rising stim. So we're not worried about the red button at all. Sit. Good. So I didn't need to stim him at all. All I did was say sit. But if for some reason he chose to not go into that sit, good. I would mark it NO. Either hold down the e-collar button, again, working level e-collar at level 8. Hold it down until he sits after I remind him, NO-SIT. Then I'll be holding the button until he goes into that sit. Good. If for some reason that still is not working and putting him in the sit, one, I would kind of look at the environment and see, are we pushing the dog too far? Good. And too short of a span? Because at this point, he should be very proficient in the sit. Good. But I can actually help him with leash pressure, so I can lightly kind of pull upwards on my leash, and obviously not going to right now because he's in this position. And that's how we paired the sit with that pressure, so that we can kind of help him out if he's getting confused. So I'm going to go ahead and do a sit, stay, sit. And since we're in a fenced-in yard, I'm okay with dropping the leash. Good. Now the sit is going to be our least stable stay. Sit. This is because the dog is already half standing. So it's going to go place as the most stable, DOWN as the next, and then sit is going to be our least stable. Good. Sit. And you can see this is very similar to that movement we did on place. I'm moving the same way around the dog. The only thing that has changed is the dog's position. Okay. And when I'm ready for him to get up, free, and step with the left leg. Good boy. And if he's still choosing to pick that position, that's totally fine. His little brain is probably starting to get a little bit tired at this point. So now we're going to go over down. Down is pretty simple. A big thing I don't want to do with my down is I don't want to cue the sit first on like that verbal command. This will lead to our dogs really confusing the sit behavior with the down behavior. And that's kind of why I told you previously, like if he does go into the down from the sit, we'll make it a no reward. We'll just free him and put him back into that position that we wanted. It can get very confusing, especially as we first teach the down. We're kind of pulling the dog into that sit position using that tactile pressure of upward leash pressure. That way we're not having to give that verbal cue, but the dogs do tend to connect still the behaviors together. Down. Good. And when he goes into that down and I tell him good, I'm going to feed him nice and low to kind of reinforce that like being down low position. Good. And we'll go into our down stay. Down. So stepping in front with my right leg. Now I can kind of move wherever I want. If he was to break, I would, on my working level again, tell him N-O, D-O-W-N, then hold my e-collar remote until he performs the behavior. Good. Or if he's having trouble, we also taught tactile leash pressure into the down as well, where it's downward pressure. In that case, I would lightly put the leash under my foot, lightly pulling up here, which is causing downward pressure on his neck, into that down. I don't want to be like yanking the dog or anything. I don't want to be like causing any like actual discomfort to the dog. All of our pressure, whether it's from the e-collar or the leash, it's not about making the dog like in pain or anything like that. It's about just being a little bit annoying to the point of the dog wanting to turn it off. So think about when you get in your car, good, and you start driving without your seatbelt, and that noise is going ding, 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 and you're really annoyed, and so you put your seatbelt on and it turns off. That's really similar to what we're doing here. So that ding, ding, ding isn't causing you physical discomfort. It's not like an air horn going next to your head. It's just being annoying enough that you're doing the desired behavior of putting your seatbelt on. So the same is going to be with our dogs when we're using pressure. And the only difference between my leash pressure and my e-collar pressure is that the leash is directional. So I can pull the dog this way, I can pull the dog that way. But with the e-collar, we had to really teach the dog how to handle pressure that's not directional, because it really doesn't naturally make sense to them. Good. So I'm going to go ahead and release him from the down. Then I'm going to actually take my leash off because I'm in a fenced-in area here. Let him get a little bit distracted, and then we're going to practice some recalls. Down. So I'll take my leash off. No. Down. Good. So he got up when I took my leash off, so I told him no. Held my e-collar button, the black button, held it down until he went back into that down. Good. I especially want to make sure that I'm correcting that specific scenario because I don't want him to learn that leash comes off and I'm a free dog right now. So I'm going to go ahead and release him now that I've said free a whole bunch. Free! So I don't want him to learn that it's not okay to leave me, because I still want him to be able to go out, be a dog, smell stuff, potty, do all those things. So I'm gonna let him kind of have some time. I'm gonna go ahead and call him Boogie. Yes. Boogie. Yes. Good boy. Free. Let him get distracted again. And I did not have to use my e-collar there. Free. Boogie. Yes. Good boy. So I don't want to do a whole bunch of reps of recall. Free. Because I don't want the dog to learn that the behavior is going out and coming back. So I want him still to be able to go out and sniff and enjoy life and do dog things. I don't want him to sit there and think that he's stuck to me. So I'll typically do like 1 to 3 recalls a training session, and then put him up. And I'll make those recalls really valuable. So maybe that's when I will pull out some higher value rewards, like actual dog treats or like chicken or something awesome. Because I'm doing low reps but high reward. So I want it to be something that he's almost craving us to call his name. Boogie! Yes! Good boy. Aha. And then quickly we're going to talk about the e-collar, how to turn it on, how to use it. This is the Fob Educator by e-collar Technologies. So if you ever lose your manual or anything, you can just Google it and it will show up. Or you can also just text me. I'm pretty savvy with these at this point. So this is your receiver, and then this is the remote. We've got the collar upgrade on it to make it a little more comfortable for him and a little easier for you to use. So it has this elastic portion. That way it can kind of expand with his neck as he's running around and stuff. And then this is just where you take it on and off. If you want to trim down this strap, you're more than welcome to. I always just fold them up on default. So when you plug it in, I recommend charging it about 1 to 2 times a week. You'll plug it in with the charger that comes with it. It's got the charging port on that side, and then the charging port's right here under this little flappy. This portion of the e-collar is waterproof. This portion is not waterproof. But when you plug it in, it'll automatically turn your e-collar off for you. And to turn it on, there's a little button on the back of the receiver. So we're gonna hold it until it beeps. So that just turned it on. If I needed to turn it off, I'm gonna hold it again. And now it's off. So I'm gonna turn it back on. And then for my remote, there is a little power button right there. I don't know if you can see it very well. Hi, Boogie. You're gonna hold that till it says off. So it says OF. And then to turn it on, you're just going to hold it till it says on. To adjust the level, you have a plus and minus right here. I'm not sure how visible that is. Obviously plus makes it go up by 1s, negative, or the minus makes it go down by 1s as well. The L is a flashlight. I don't really use it that much, but if you're hanging out with him in the yard at night and you want to find him, flashlight can be helpful. Everything else on here is not really things you need to worry about. Like the P is the programming button, and the R controls like the rising stem and stuff. This e-collar has the ability to do rising stem where it'll go up to the level you have it limited at. Boogie does not really need that, so we're not really going to use that for him. You're only concerned with the black button. So the black button is whatever I set it at. So the collar is not on the dog. I want to make sure that that's really clear right now. The collar is not on the dog, so he is not feeling this stem. But if I set it to like level 25, which he works on level 8, so he should not be on level 25. And I hold this black button, it's just going to stay at 25. And then if I hit, for some reason, if I decided to hit the red button, that is the rising stem, and that's where it'll go up to whatever level you limit it at. Again, Boogie does not really use the rising stem. We haven't really done too much with that because he doesn't need it. So don't worry about the red button. We're just primarily worried about the black button.